Hey everybody, and welcome to another live stream of the Ask a Cycling Coach podcast. I'm Coach Jonathan Lee, and our head coach Chad Timmerman's with us.
Hi, everybody.
Like always, and our CEO Nate Pearson.
Hello.
If you're joining us now, you're getting to see the behind-the-scenes look at the podcast. So you're probably joining us on Facebook or YouTube, but you can also join us at forum.trainerroad.com. The YouTube stream is actually embedded right there, so then people can see that, all of you. So you can check that out right now. In the forum, you'll have different people interacting and asking questions right there. So we'll actually be reading a lot of the questions that come in through the forum. We'll be checking out Facebook and YouTube as well. But I think with time, more and more people are just going to end up slotting into the forum and watching it live there since it's embedded. And then, it's all a natural conversation right there. And the cool part is that makes it indexable. So then if something's discussed, even just amongst, all of you guys in the comments on an episode, it'll be really easy to find it versus getting lost in Facebook comments. Heck, YouTube even deletes the live comments afterward once it's not a live video anymore. So we don't like that. So jump over to forum.trainerroad.com. You'll see this episode's post, and you can join us there. Ask your questions. We'll be reading those thereafter. It's going to be a good time. I already have somebody asking why in the world I'm wearing a jacket.
I know. I didn't even notice it until I looked at our live stream, and I was like, "You're wearing a jacket."
Yeah,
it's freezing
cold
in here.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. And I'm really just.
It's usually
cold
burning
today.
in here with four big dudes
Haven't
and the lights.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm gonna say I haven't warmed up since my last weekend's trip, but we'll talk about that. So let's just kick off the proper podcast.
Spoiler.
So,
or not spoiler.
Teaser. Yeah. Are you ready to start the proper one?
I am.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. Welcome to the podcast. It's dedicated to making you a faster cyclist, the Ask a Cycling Coach podcast presented by TrainerRoad. I'm Coach Jonathan Lee with our head coach, Chad Timmerman.
Hi, everybody.
Our CEO, Nate Pearson.
Hello.
And this is where we answer the cycling and triathlon-related questions that you submit at trainerroad.com/podcast. You can also join us live every week. We record this usually Thursdays at 8 a.m. Pacific. Today it's Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific. We'll get into why that happened very soon here. But you can join us live, and you can join us at forum.trainerroad.com. That's where you'll see the live stream will be embedded right there. All the conversation will be happening there. You'll be able to search through and find the show notes. You'll be able to search and find discussions from other people on the topics that we're talking about. It makes it all easy to find instead of it disappearing in Facebook and YouTube comments. So you can tune in live there and join us, and it's a great time. I guess the forum is kind of the first big thing. Then maybe should we transition to that?
Not forum.
Ooh, okay.
We're bearing the lead.
Yeah.
There's a bigger thing is calendar.
Of course.
So TrainerRoad, we have launched our new calendar product. And this is so that you can plan your training out so that you get faster.
Yeah.
It's been asked for a long time. I've wanted to do it for literally, I think, I sent an email to another industry person 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
I've really wanted to do this for a really long time because not only is it useful what we have today, but it also opens up this entire new world of things that we can do.
Yeah.
So we have a whole stream that we did of it yesterday.
Yep, and you can check that out. That's up on Facebook or on our YouTube channels. If you're driving, listening to this as a podcast, then you can just tap that YouTube video and let it play in the background too, and then you can listen to it and grasp most of what we're talking about. But it was also a screen share, so you could see the actual features working. So you can check that out on our YouTube channel.
I just want to go over the high-level features. First one, people asked for this for a long time. When you add a training plan to your calendar, you can now switch the days around.
Super nice.
It sounds kind of silly, but you can do it, and it's very nice.
Yes.
Once it's then on your calendar, you can drag and drop workouts around. You can push a whole week out. So if you were going on vacation or something, you can move. It's very, very flexible. You can switch out outside or TrainerRoad rides on the weekend for outside rides.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you do an outside ride, it can just replace that ride that you did. You can plan outside rides, but not only that, you can plan outside runs. Swims or inside runs, I guess, too. Or swims.
Yeah.
Or what we call other workouts. So what I do is I keep track of my weight training.
Yeah,
and
or
then
skiing or
exactly.
insert whatever activity you
Anything.
do.
Yep. And so what's cool about that, too, is when you add a triathlon plan, before what we had is in the weekly descriptions, it had the per day run and swim instructions. And this says, run at this or do these kind of swim intervals and these drills. those are now actual workouts that get put on your calendar.
So when you click on that workout, you'll see the instructions and description right there on the workout. All you do is click on it on the calendar.
But it's not. It's like its own little they're like these little cards that we put on the calendar. So if you're a triathlete now, when you add a triathlon training plan, they're all there. Then you can switch them around. You can have your runs. You can switch them around to be on different days. And another really nice thing that we have are the ability to add annotations. So this is kind of like in Gmail. I guess it'd be like all day events, but how we use them is you can mark in things about your training or about your lifestyle that helps you adjust your training.
Your subjective metrics, maybe.
Well, that's one. There's a whole bunch of things. So this is what I use it for. I do it for travel, and I do it for sickness, and I do it for rest. Because instead of, I don't like a day that just has nothing on it. I like to put a annotation that says, no, your goal today is rest. What you could do, if, like Chad said, you could write in your metrics or something. I have recently been sick, and what I'm trying to do is every day write in how I feel and then how I respond to training on that. So then I can then look back and say, what did I do wrong? Because usually it's always you come back too soon. I don't think I ever came back too late. Yeah. Like my first workout back, I'm like, I rested too long.
Yeah.
Right. So
I feel too fresh.
And the last thing at a high level is you can mark races as A, B, or C priority. So you can make, let's say we just had Stetina's race. You put down Stetina's race on there. That was a B priority for me. I put in that it was going to be about 5 hours, and I estimated I put the RP in and it estimated the training stress for me. And so because of that, then it shows up on my calendar, which is really cool. And then I can kind of train for that. Yeah. The last thing that's cool is as you plan your training stress out.
It's not the last thing that's cool, but yeah.
Okay, that I'll mention right now.
There are more cool things.
I know, I'm kind of like, oh, it's so cool. There's a TSS chart at the top. So as you plan your training stress out, especially for your A race, you can see it like evolve and and if you were to do these workouts, what would be your training stress level? And it also includes, you can type in your run, swim, and air quotes, other TSS.
Yep. So. Yeah, it's something we've been waiting for a long time. I feel like it's the best training calendar I've used. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a company man.
Lots of people have said that, actually.
It's true. Yep.
Yeah, by a lot.
The other thing I want to mention that is in the app. So when you load the app, you'll see your upcoming workouts now. We have an update for Mac. We had a snafu yesterday, but today that will come out where you can see your Mac upcoming workouts. There's one thing that I have to mention to people. If you were on an existing training plan, we had them I call them bingo card style training plans, where as soon as you did any workout on that one, it would start filling it in. You will have to re-add your plan on our website in order to get it. And the reason we did this, and if you just go, if there's a link in the app to be able to do this, or you go to the website and there's a link under your career for calendar. The reason we did this is because the way people do plans with bingo, a lot of times it wasn't, they didn't do them perfectly. So if you look at our data, it's not like you did them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, rest day, Friday, Saturday. As all plans do, they change. So we didn't know exactly where you were on the plan, and we didn't know if you wanted all the Tuesday workouts really did be on Tuesday. So what we've done is tried to make the pain a little bit easier or less, but to be able to add that plan back to your calendar.
Yep.
So just be aware of that. If you open the app and you don't see your training plan, just link to the calendar. It'll take you maybe 90 seconds to add it, and then you're good.
Cool. Yeah. So check that out. Check out the live stream. Check out the features there on TrainerRoad.com. If you have an active account, you'll be able to just click on it. It'll show up right in the sidebar or show up in the app. Like we said, the Mac app's being updated right now. If you haven't activated your TrainerRoad account, then you can go back through and check it out that way after activation. It's a pretty sweet deal. So you can find a bunch of chatter about this and a bunch of insight as well in the forum. And just go to forum.trainerroad.com and you can check that out. The forum has been launched. That's another great thing.
Yes.
And the main thing behind this is we noticed that when we started the Facebook podcast group, when we started the podcast, that so many people had these questions, and we figured that if we could connect them, then hopefully more people could get more answers to their questions, help that kind of the community solves the problem, all of us together. And it's been awesome. And that Facebook podcast group has grown rapidly. However, it's kind of a pain because you can't search back through and find something. It's difficult to keep track of a post. Facebook just seems to kind of do what they want in terms of filtering those things out. So it's really hard to find information. So we built a forum that uses Discourse. So it's a really, really good forum platform to use. And then we went through and definitely made it our own. You can tag different conversations in specific ways. You can search for keywords. You can tag individuals. You can get notifications from all of this. I even saved it onto my home screen on my phone, so it's easy to access.
It works really well on your phone, actually.
Yeah, it does. It's like most forums are terrible, period. But then most forums are really bad when you're on your phone. But this one's perfect on the phone.
So I am addicted. If you go in there, you'll see I'll go through and I'll answer, like, I'm trying to read all these questions. Yeah. It's so there's like, it's really cool because it's been up for about 2 days now. I just looked. It's got 79,000 page views in 2 days.
Yeah, it's growing rapidly.
I know, but it's what the best part is are people. Not only are people getting their questions answered, but I'm actually learning stuff too. So I'm just looking at the top ones right now. There's one about low-fat diets or low-carb, high-fat diets. There's one about macros. There's one about improving power match, what we can do there. There's talking about our new features.
Shaving your legs.
Shaving your legs. I put a post in there about about my DEXA. So every single DEXA that I've done with all the details, also with pictures of like how other people look, like famous people look when they took DEXAs. Yeah. And then how the DEXA relates to the Stetina and the Nokia scale.
Yep. Yeah, Chad will be posting stuff in there when he finds something interesting or insightful in all of his studies.
Yeah, Chad's been in there too.
Yeah, for those that don't, I don't know if people really know this, but you are very much a student of the game. You research a lot. You're constantly doing a ton of research.
I thought he made it all up.
So
I'm a creative guy.
Well, honestly though, I mean, a lot of coaches just kind of run on that stuff, but you're not. You don't do that. So it'll be cool to get some insight there, and then I'll be sharing all the different learnings and stuff. I said yesterday during the live stream that I would be sharing a post about my weekend trip, and I didn't share that because it was an absolutely crazy day. Busy times. But today is the goal. So that's all new. But then there's another thing that's new, and it's something that a lot of the podcast listeners have asked for a very long time, and that's the ability to get TrainerRoad kit.
What?
Yes, it's finally available. We're doing the kits through Jackaroo. They have a really easy to use store system. Because one of the main reasons we didn't want to do it is because we don't want to turn into like a logistics business or like clothing apparel selling business or software, right? We just want to do what we do best. So Jackaroo takes care of that. And if you go into the forum, so forum.trainerroad.com, you can look for kits, and then you'll find it.
Just search for kits.
Mm-hmm. And you'll be able to click through and get the kits there. If you have any questions on sizing, you can actually do live chat or send them an email, and they'll walk you through getting measurements to give you the precise size. To give you an idea, maybe we can go around the table on which sizes we use. Mm-hmm. So I'm 5'10" and a half. That half is very important. And I have a 32.5 inch inseam, and I weigh about 147 pounds right now. And I would wear the small slim jersey and small bibs. That's what I wear.
I'm 5'16". 6'6", 198 centimeters.
Yeah.
I'm 84 kilograms, 186 pounds. And I wear in the one-piece suit, it's a large. It is a little tight, like vertically, but that just happens. Mm-hmm. For bib shorts, I could either go large or extra large. And for jersey, I go large. And that fits... The large is tight on me. I could go medium and have it be like, see every single. I don't like that fit. Yeah. And then extra large would probably be a little bit baggy on me.
Yep.
Chad?
6'2". I think that's 187 centimeters, mm-hmm. about 85 kilograms, 185 pounds. My inseam's 34. Waist is 32. This feels weird sharing all this. And I wear, I'm pretty sure.
He's got beautiful hazel eyes.
Did I settle on a large
on the beach?
A large jersey?
Yeah, you got large.
I know my bibs are large.
We buy the same size stuff.
Yeah, and I gotta admit it's fitting a little uncomfortably tight as I train more. So
maybe extra large.
Maybe. Yeah, if your shoulders are broad. And
I find that. Wait, for the top or for the bottom?
Top.
Okay. For me, I find like
probably still large actually.
I always like a little bit bigger bibs. Because I never feel because they're so compressive, they never get baggy.
Bibs, yeah.
But for jerseys, I always like to be more on the tight side.
Same here.
Right.
But
yeah.
I have a shout out.
I should clarify. Hold on before you do that. I'm 70 inches, so about 177 centimeters. And I think I'm at about 67 kilograms, 66 and a half. Sorry, for those that don't follow Imperial.
Cross season is here, and there is the thermal one-piece suit that they have. Mm-hmm. You see in that picture, or in that TrainerRoad kits, you can see me wearing that kit.
In the post, you're saying.
In the post,
forum.
Sorry, on the forum, forum.trainerroad.com. search for kits. You can see a picture of me wearing the thermal long or like single skin suit, speed suit one. I really like that one. And it's kind of got like a felt lining in the whole suit.
It's toasty.
But when you do cross races that are like 30 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
40
It's
degrees.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's great.
I wore like, you can see I put like knee warmers on over that, and it's just perfect. Where other ways, I don't know, you start to get other base layers and stuff, and you're not, especially with crossing, it gets kind of uncomfortable. So if you do like to ride in the cold or race in the cold, that's a good suit. Yeah.
Somebody in the forum is asking for my chest and waist measurements, like Chad provided. So I'm about a 29-inch waist, and then for
Ooh, that's slim.
Yeah. I'm light, yeah. And then for the chest, I usually wear, in terms of suit jacket size, because chest measurement always varies, but suit jacket size, I usually wear a 39, like a 38 or a 40 cut tailored down to a 39. So that should give you an idea of where we're at there. Yeah, so hopefully that helps there. That's cool having that live interaction there in the forum. Okay, so first things, should we cover Stetina's race?
Nope.
Takeaways from
we have
Unacross?
another announcement.
Oh, we do.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this one is sorry, John.
Not as sexy.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bittersweet, but we are going to have a pricing update or pricing raise. I'll just say what it is.
Yeah.
That's going to happen on October 8th, 2018.
So important detail.
Yeah,
No, let's cover that first. An important detail is if you are signed up for TrainerRoad right now, whatever plan you're at, it stays the same. You're grandfathered in. That won't change. So if you're a person that signed up with TrainerRoad when we first started and you're $7 a month, you're still $7 a month, right? So it's not going to change for you.
So when we do price increases, I say it's bittersweet because it really does help us grow. And if you like what we're doing, we can build more stuff. But as I was going to say, if you keep your subscription active, you're in whatever price that you are in now. So if you're at $12 a month right now and you want to, as long as you stay with us, you'll be in there. The new price is going to be $15 a month. So to go 12 to 15, the yearly price is going to go from $99 to $129. So if you do want to lock in, this is the week, or this next week is a great time to sign up, especially if you were, if you're not an active member, you're thinking about TrainerRoad. If you want to do it now.
Now's the time.
And if you want to, if you do plan on locking in, I think it makes sense to lock in at a yearly price. Because if you do that, if you're trying to lock in for a long time, the yearly price is less expensive. I think that if you do for $99, it's like $825 or something like that. So another question is, well, what if I'm on a monthly plan and I want to switch to yearly, but I don't get charged again until next February? That's okay. As long as you do the switch now, we'll lock you in at that $99.
Yep.
So this is going to happen. It's not going to be the last time it happens. Every single company, used to buy soda for a nickel or something.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Right.
Inflation happens. Everything gets more expensive. Engineers get more expensive. Hosting and fees and all that kind of stuff. So please spread the word. Tell people. If people are on the fence, get in now, and it'll be awesome. So I just want to say it again, though. If you are a current member, we will never raise your price.
Yep.
Unless for some reason I get fired and somebody, I don't think it happens.
Let's make
takes
that
me
not
over.
happen.
As long as I'm alive
Yeah, let's
and
make
in charge
that
of this
not
thing,
happen.
it's not going to happen.
Okay, so racing time. Some takeaways that we have from these sort of things. Should I share mine first?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, we should do that because I guess it's less on key with everything. So I went up to Whistler, British Columbia for an extended weekend for 2 days of riding in the bike park and 1 day in Squamish, BC with the local there, Jeff Kabush, and friend of the podcast.
Who's that?
Previous guest on the podcast. He's a 15-time Canadian national champion, 3-time Olympian.
Jeff Kabush.
Yeah, that Jeff Kabush. I think a 6 or 5-time BC bike race champion, Downeyville multi-time champion. He's
pretty
legit.
good.
Yeah, he's okay at riding a bike. Yeah. So previous podcast guest as well. You can see that, I believe, 3 episodes ago. But anyways, we went up there just for some mountain biking, and I got completely thrown out of my element because it was dumping rain, and it's the northern rainforest up there. It's just incredibly, just everything was completely soaked and wet all the way through. And I learned some things from Kabush about how to ride in the wet that I wanted to pass on to our listeners. So first thing that I learned is that he runs compounds that are much more sticky and not as durable on his tires. So with Maxxis, they have one called Max Terra Then they have one called Max Grip, and Max Grip is like very gummy. Like you put your fingernail, push it into it, and it's almost like you're pushing into a gummy worm, right? It's much more, doesn't last as long. So if you're riding in like the dry Southwest like we do,
you wouldn't use it.
It would tear apart really fast. You could use it, it would tear apart really fast.
Okay.
And it probably doesn't roll very fast on that sort of terrain. But it helps a ton when you're going over greasy rocks and roots. And in cyclocross, it would be super helpful if you are riding in muddy conditions to get a tire with a very grippy compound. It goes a long way. The other thing is he runs significantly less pressure. So whereas in the Yeti 5.5 that I was riding, I have 29 millimeter internal width stands flow rims.
That's wide.
So really wide. And then I run a 2.5 front tire, Minion DHF, and a 2.4 DHR2 in the rear. So big fat tires. At North Star, I run 27 and 29 PSI in those tires.
And that's a loose over hard.
And really gnarly rocks, right? Yeah. Now up there, I ran 19 and 20 PSI.
Wow.
So super low.
It's like 2/3.
Yeah, but it was just what I needed to get the sort of grip that I needed. And Jeff runs really low pressures too down there, or in those scenarios. So that was when we were in Squamish and all the really, the jungly stuff. That's what we did.
Did that help?
It helped a ton. So like, once again, cyclocross, if you have a tubeless setup, you don't want to go so low that you start burping, but drop that pressure as much as you can in slick conditions. No, the final day at the bike park, a bit of an aside, I did explode a rear wheel. So, but I was back up to 27 and 29 PSI. The rain had just washed away the landing, and there was just nasty rocks, and my rear wheel hit so hard on a rock, and it broke the rim and broke 2 spokes. So,
does the DHF have that other grip?
It does.
Too, but you weren't running it.
No, I wasn't running it. I would have loved to have run that stuff. I bet it would have been even more helpful. The other thing that he said is, the looking ahead aspect is really important, like even more so important, because you can find yourself in an off-camber section where you're just sliding down and then you get too far down. But the big thing is he always looks for little spots where he can inject momentum. Basically, like, momentum is your friend in slick stuff, even though you want to stop and, collect yourself. If you carry more momentum, you don't slide down on off cambers. You don't have to have the issues where you're sliding and stopping. So momentum is your friend. And what he does is, like, in between rocks and roots, he looks for a spot like, can I get a few pedal strokes in? And they're not like jamming as hard as you can, but they're strong, smooth pedal strokes to just carry that momentum.
That's like 700 watts for him.
Right.
Strong and smooth.
Yeah, strong and smooth. Yeah. So, and it's always about keeping momentum. And once again, tying this back to like cyclocross, that's huge. If you can go through like these off-camber S-turn sections that are so common in muddy conditions with cyclocross, if you can carry as much momentum as possible by smoothing out those turns and then finding spots to put in those pedal strokes, it'll really help. And then the other key, of course, staying low, right? Low with your chest. That just helps so much on putting more front end traction on
through the hip hinge.
Through the hip hinge.
Does Jeff hip hinge?
Oh, like a pro.
Yeah, I bet you Lee never taught him that, right?
No way. Yeah, it just natural.
Happens. All the pros do it.
It was so crazy trying to follow him. And then Marty Lazarski, another Yeti ambassador, is from Squamish, like on their home trails. These trails are so incredible. I think there was one for about 45 seconds. I was only in the air or landing, and it was all natural, just lumpy little stuff. So it was all us just bunny hopping from one spot to the next. It was incredible. So good.
Jonathan is a nature geek, and he falls in love more than anyone I've ever met, where it's almost amazing. It's at first I almost thought you were faking, but I know now it's not faking. Well, we'll drive somewhere, and he's like, oh, we should pull over and take a picture. This is so beautiful, guys. Oh, my God. So I just imagine you in Squamish, like, not paying attention to the trail and being like, oh, Jeff, look at this.
Oh, it was amazing.
Double rainbow. Oh, my God.
Double rainbow guy for sure. Yeah, we were stopping to take photos. But it was amazing to see how good those riders are at bike body separation. And what that isn't just
So what is that? Because I'm bad at that.
Yeah, so a lot of people, when they start out, they're very rigid because they don't want to get loose on their bike, and they don't want to, and honestly, if you're just loose on your bike, chances are you'll have a problem. But they have such a strong and stable platform through their legs and through their feet through the bike, and then they're so light on their hands that they're basically just standing on their bike almost without their hands on the bars. They don't need to, right? Mm-hmm. Like the hands on the bars are more just like very low, like light rudder guiding, like a ship. But the terrain is just lumpy and rolly and turny. So if you are not separated from your bike, your body is lumpy, rolly, and turny. But they just soak it up, and there are points where, the tire is hitting the crotch of your pants, your rear tire, because you're so low in a section. Or there's a section where, your helmet is hitting the bars, and because you're so, soaking everything up. But they just do so good at soaking everything up, keeping the tires on the ground and momentum.
Yeah, on that note, when we did the clinic with Lee McCormick, by the end of the day, there was one run. Lee went first, you went second, I went third, and I finished really close to you guys. Yeah. And it was the first time I actually got in touch with that bike body separation in a really, really impactful way.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Here, it's for turning too is huge.
Huge.
So I'm going to go through why I think I suck.
Okay.
So triathletes out there.
This is a good segue perhaps into the cross racing. We can talk about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan.
We're talking about bike handling.
I know. It's okay. Yeah. So triathlon, you have almost no, if you start as a triathlete, you do like no bike body separation. There's like usually no turns that are, it's very low on turns. Maybe there's a 180. But as a triathlete, I've done it too. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going 180, and you just kind of turn on this knife's edge sitting up.
As a proficient bike handler, doing a 180 on a TT bike is scary.
Yep.
It's a bit of a skill,
it's just what it is.
And then you move into road, and road there's a little bit more, but I think only the real big bike body separation is when you're sprinting. So look at the Tour de France guys, and look at that bike move below them.
Yeah.
But their body's not moving like that. That's huge. Separation, but a lot of people don't do that, or when they sprint too, the bike's kind of still and they're just kind of like trying to pump. And then when you get into mountain biking, then that is when, if you don't do bike body separation, like especially for a turn, I just got this maybe last winter where the bike is leaning, but you're pushing the opposite pedal as the bike leans, and you get to a point where when it leans, your knobs hook in, and then you turn.
And it's like you're on rails.
It's magic.
And that, you wouldn't do that on a road bike, right? That much leaning.
No, you wouldn't.
But it's so that evolution as a triathlete, it takes a while. Unless I didn't even really think about it. I always thought I was going to fall if I leaned the bike like that. Like the tires are meant to be this way, and those side knobs,
it's sketchy.
They grip
feeling.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you're a triathlete or you have problems with that, try that and try going slow and in something grippy like parking lot.
Totally. It's really, that's like a confidence booster first. And also it's something that we've talked about with skills and technique and everything else for cyclocross. Get into a parking lot and do extremely tight turns where you're leaning that bike over. You don't have to be going crazy fast, just extremely tight turns. And it's amazing when you do tight turns in the parking lot and refine that technique, how suddenly you get to a 180 in the grass and it doesn't feel as tight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of helpful, because otherwise you charge into that first turn on a cyclocross race and you're like, oh gosh, I really have to stop. Let's talk about Reno Cross.
Reno Cross.
So that is the replacement for Cross Vegas, and it was during Interbike Week here. We talked to Katarina Nash before that about the race and everything else, and about how she performs with that. If you want, you can check that out on our YouTube channel, the live podcast party we had. Tons of folks also came to TrainerRoad HQ. It was really fun. But the course was non-technical. Is it fair to say?
Yeah, it was half of it was very thick grass, at least in the early races, and the other part was very dry grass over kind of hard.
Yeah, it was
but
kind
not
of
technical.
Yeah, the I didn't find a single spot where I felt like it was the sand was hard to get through. I got through once in practice, and then in the race I couldn't get through it.
It wasn't the fastest way to go.
No, yeah. You ended up basically getting to the point where a good rider could get through, but you were doing the thing where you basically hop every time and then just sink down.
The men's elite for the sand, they would ride about halfway through, but they do an effortless jump off before they stop.
They would ride until their speed started to decline, and then they'd hop off and keep going.
Chad saw me do this. I was the opposite. I would go, and then I'd get stuck, and then I would get off, and I'd go, oh, you did it too wrong. Because I thought I would...
You were far from alone, though.
I know, but I know what I should have done, but it's hard to execute that.
Totally. Yeah. So a few things. I raced just the industry race, the wheelers and dealers race, they call it. You can actually check it out in the forum. We'll be posting the links to my rides and Nate's rides from this one. Chad bowed out on this race.
He hurt his hip.
Cheering from the side.
Yeah. He was drinking.
Yeah.
If you met Chad at Cross Reno, someone just asked in a Reddit post if you ever have fun. You should have came to Cross Reno.
Yeah.
Chad was having fun.
I know how to have fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was
You
good.
knew how to have fun.
So I had a front row start because a Toyota dealership was one of their sponsors, and I bought a truck.
Oh.
So they pulled me up to the front, which is pretty sweet.
No, that's not how it happened. Can I tell the real story?
That is exactly how it happened.
Okay, they said, is any of our sponsors from Reno, Dolan, Toyota? And Jonathan goes, I just bought a truck there. And the guy goes, come up. And the whole The whole group goes.
You make it seem like it was begrudgingly. He was happy to let me up.
I know, but the whole
Worked
group
out
was
well.
like,
Well, of
"You're
course.
not from Reno. Like,
No.
You're not one of the Dolans who owns the thing."
No.
But it was great. I mean, it's just cross. It's fun. It's industry race. It's not like world world champs or
Back out
something.
of here with your negative vibes, Nate. That's terrible. So,
It was funny.
front row start.
funny.
I got a good start and held the lead for most of the first lap. You can check out the race on Flow Bikes, actually, that streaming service. You can watch the race thereafter. But I had a good start, and I just remembered about 3/4 of the way through the lap, I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, wait.
You haven't been training for 4 months. This is probably going to go explode
Yeah,
really
I did
soon.
that at Stetina.
And that happened. Yeah.
Same scenario.
Yep, that happened. But I flatted on the second lap going into the sand pit because there was a curb, and I flatted there, and then it slow leaked for about a minute, and then after that it was totally flat. But I just turned lemons into lemonade, and I kept pushing, which was meager power at this point. But it was really good training on learning how to be loose on the cross bike and kind of be okay with it, especially in the off-camber sections in the grass. It suddenly made a non-technical course technical. And what I basically learned was the fact that you have to be with cross, if you keep the power down, you're better. And with a flat, the same thing. If you have a flat and you have to nurse it for a lap, keep the power down. Not be smooth, kind of like what we were talking about with Jeff. You can't be surgy, but if you keep that wheel spinning rather than just ease off on it, when you ease off, it likes to slide down off cambers and lose momentum, but you just stay on it.
What tires did you run?
Oh, the Clement Loss LAS, did not like them. I felt like they rolled quickly, for sure, but they were the least confidence-inspiring tire I've ever ridden for cross.
So those are a file tread tire, and they were made for Cross Vegas, which is now dead, a grass course.
They're made for grassy cross
File
courses.
tread with side knobs, right?
It varies very small.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
it does have them for sure. Yeah.
And they're, I think, 33s.
They're 33s.
And we had some here. I actually tried to put them on my bike last year, but you couldn't set them up tubeless. And I was like, I'm not going with tubes.
Yeah, I think they make a tubeless version now, but the ones we have are not tubeless.
So you were running that one instead of we had bigger gravel tires, but because the grass was so thick, that's another takeaway. We've mentioned it before, but riding wide tires and thick grass is extremely slow.
Yes,
It's
it is.
hard.
It slows you down a lot.
Yeah.
So like having that helped, I think, in the terms of rolling resistance, but I really wanted to make it through the sand and impress Chad because he was standing right there. You know, I was really worried about that. So I went into the sand pretty hard, and that's when somebody had kind of trenched out a spot just before and after, and I went straight into that, and it just bam, and it, you know, running a tube, it's so easy to pinch flat, and I'd forgotten about it. I should have been more ginger, but I screwed up there and flatted.
So I did 2 different races. I did the 4-5 race and the industry race.
Yep.
And I rode 2 different tire sets. I actually had a wheel problem, so I had to switch at the end. So I did in the early race when the grass was a little bit thicker, I had Vittoria Terreno dries that were 40
40 up front.
Yep, and back and rear.
Okay.
And those were and 2 people go, you can't go over 35. No, the race director talked to like the USAC like national referee, and they're like, you can, as long as you have bar ends, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like,
they said as long as it's like a non-championship race like this, I think that they can check it and they could enforce that rule, but in this case they weren't, and especially the wheelers and dealers race, there was an e-bike, full suspension fat bike towing a rollerblader, so I really don't think they care.
but even the 4-5, they said it was fine, because I asked the race director before, I'm like, can I run these 40s, because I don't want to get disqualified. But anyways, it's really, the tire is awesome, but that 40 I like in a loose over hard or gravel racing, and then I switched to the 33 for the industry race. And although the race was much faster at the time because the grass was more packed down, I rode in some fresh grass at another part, and it's just huge how much faster you can go.
Yep.
And I want to say too, those 33s measure 35s on my 19 internal diameter CLX 50s that they were on.
Same pressure both times?
No, different pressures for each bike. Yeah. So a little bit higher pressure when I did those 33s.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I believe I did 25 front and rear with the 40s, and probably 28 or 30 for the 33s.
Gotcha.
So you passed me in the industry race.
Well, I prefer to say beat you.
Yeah, you
but
beat
no,
me.
no,
Yeah, you beat me.
You
Yeah,
got a flat tire. It
but you
means nothing.
So we were talking about the starts, and like, you know, our group didn't have a whole lot of people in the wheelers and dealers race. I don't know if your 4-5 race had more or less, but how did you find the starts? Like, we make a big deal out of it in cross that you have to get a good start.
Yeah.
You know?
So the whole e-bike guy with the tow rope and the rollerblader, for some reason, They were lined up like third row, which was, if you're going to be funny like that, just get to the back because it messed up. I was there to actually race, and a lot of people there to actually race.
Yeah.
He starts, and he's like going everywhere. I was lined up right next to him. So, anyways, Wheeler Dealer's bad start.
Great to have him. Should have been in the back.
It's important obviously it's important to get a good start because you get stuck behind people, and it's hard to pass people.
You seem to move through pretty well, though.
Yeah, but it just takes more energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
way more energy than having a clean line.
You were just chasing my furious pace up front.
That's right.
It's hard to do. Yeah.
And then the 4-5 race, again, I was the Masters 35 plus. I think there was so it was a group of 20 of us starting. There was a group of the open 4-5s in front of us, and the person there saying, "Yep, you guys are going to start 30 seconds after." So there's like a gap, and they lined us up, and then the thing went off, and the announcer's like, "Go 35 plus." So
everyone went.
No, it was supposed to. The person who told us to wait was wrong.
Yeah.
So that was a bad start too. But anyway, in the 45 plus, I got second. So
nice.
That's cool.
Good job.
And that was fun to move up through everyone. Definitely a power course. And I think with the whole race, I would have gotten fourth. So if you would have put combined both fields, yeah. And if I started in the front, the people who won they were so much faster than me that. So I would have got fourth out of 20 or second out of 10.
So also part of the Interbike Week was Stetina Sierra Prospect, which is an enduro format on the road. And I think that the enduro format is basically how most people ride when they're with a group anyway, most people. And it's actually really enjoyable. But after talking to people, it seems like roadies don't know how to enduro quite yet, right?
Not quite yet.
Like it's not. So for those that don't know, an enduro format is similar. If you're familiar with rally car racing, it's the same format in the sense that there is a loop or a point, or a point to point, and you have to cover all of that. However, only portions of it are timed. And in enduro racing, and just like rally car racing, you have to do it on your own. You can't have any sort of like support or anything else like that. You have to be able to fix the car or the bike in this case to get it from point to point. Not so much with this road stuff. But the point is, it's a big loop and only portions of it are timed. And with mountain bike enduro guys, they are fantastic at really not pedaling hard until it matters. And then they collect at the top, they hang out, they rest, they get ready, they eat food. And then when they're ready to go, they charge as hard as they possibly can on the stage. And then they wait for their buddies at the bottom. Then they all recollect and go back up to another stage. But it doesn't happen that way.
Well, I've got road enduro tips.
Okay.
So the difference is between a regular enduro and a road enduro is that there are the time sections. Being in a group, a peloton, is extremely important.
Yeah.
It's not an individual one. You can roll through as a group of 40. And you can imagine a group of 40 on the road is going to go a lot faster than just you.
Yeah, for sure.
So what happened is, in the beginning, it started out with a big climb. Levi Leifheimer's there, a whole bunch of pros. And I'm blanking
Alex
on
Howes, Peter Stednow, obviously.
Yeah, are in there. And they're
Cliff Bar guys.
Yeah, and you wanna be in the fast group, right? So the first climb, I think it's only like 12 minutes, but I'm climbing at like 4.3 watts per kilo. Yeah, there's a lot of power.
Yep.
Chad was just like, "Yep, see you guys later."
Yeah, I held on as long as I could, and it pretty much blew my day.
Right. Yeah.
So you want to be with that group, though. So the strategy is a little bit different. You don't want to go as easy as you can, and then the pros are like, for them that is easy, right? And they're going up. And then the other part that was a little bit on this race. It's hard to. It was at Tahoe, so you couldn't really set the aid stations up how you wanted to. But the aid stations were after the segments, so we weren't really sure when we got into the segments. And everyone's like, "Are we in the segment or not?" But so our strategy with this, if you are in a big peloton, and this is we're trying to get our product manager here, Brandon Need, to win the race.
Which you did.
Spoiler alert. Yep, I was going to get to that, but
sorry,
no suspense there.
Yeah,
Jonathan, oh, he did. I remember.
Yeah, he won. Yeah.
Is when you have that big group before you're on the segment. Always try to be in the very back or slightly off the back because you can then roll to the front of the group. That's not so hard to do. Then if you were to cross the line first and you go anything but all you can do is lose time.
Yeah, you can gain a few seconds that way, maybe.
Yep. And you can gain like 4 or 5 seconds. And
because it's all timing chipped.
Yep. In a competitive race like that, he did that twice, and he gained probably 10 seconds between those two sections that were timed.
Yep.
At the final climb up Mount Rose, him and Sam Bassetti
from KHS Elevate.
Yep, they climbed Mount Rose and they finished at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Now Sam Bassetti on the first segment, he got a broken spoke, but he kind of was out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that, I think Brandon would have won just because of his rolling from the back to the front.
Yeah.
So it would have been, that 5 seconds he could have done that just because he did the maximum amount of time. Because Sam was in that same group as Peloton as us, and no one started farther back from Brandon, and Brandon was always the first one to cross the line at the end.
Yeah.
So this is only if you're super competitive does this matter.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool to think about that strategy.
So I'm going to step back and say that I feel like the races, these enduro road races, I feel like that's the format that most races should have, honestly. It's great. I think
it's fun, yeah.
It's fun. It's natural for everybody. You get to be more social, and then you also get to hammer it. Like, people like that. But I think that they should have a section where it's an aid station, and everybody has to stop at that aid station. You check in with a chip because that forces people to stop. And then after that, you should have like 200 meters until the stage start. And then you can all roll out then and then cross that line. And then start the next stage, and then some sort of light aid station if you need at the end of it. But there's no need to necessarily stop at the end. But I think that if they did that and they forced people to kind of stop like that, it'd probably level the playing field a bit. It would make it so that people that do get spit off in one section
can regroup.
Regroup. It also, there's no point in pushing really hard through the non-staged or non-timed portions of the race if you have to stop before the stage, right? Or hopefully that should discourage that, because the reason everybody was pushing so hard in the beginning when it wasn't even a time stage was because they didn't want to lose the fast group in the front.
Yeah.
So I get it, but at the same time, everyone there's like that shirt that says "Don't be such a roadie," right? I feel like people could enjoy the day even more if a little bit of that enduro format was maybe forced on there because of the course.
Yeah,
it'd be cool.
For sure.
So really cool idea though, and kudos to Peter Stetina for doing a race in our backyard.
Peter actually had the fastest time for the whole thing.
Yeah.
He destroyed it up Mount Rose, but he disqualified himself. It was his own race.
Good man.
So Brandon Need did win,
Yeah.
and as you already told us.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. He beat Levi Limeheimer up Mount Rose, which is, I think I know Levi's not at peak Tour de France fitness, but it's just cool to say.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
and
very cool to say.
Kudos to Levi, because he's the one that organizes this, does a lot of the organization behind it, and to Bike Monkey. They're the ones that do Levi's Gran Fondo and other races as well. So
it's a good event. Highly recommended.
Yep. Super cool. Okay. We are going to get into questions, I promise.
Okay.
The other thing that we need to cover, though, is Kona is coming up. That's Ironman World Championships. All three of us are decidedly not doing that race. However, we will be there. So we're going to be there from, I guess, that Monday until the race day, and then we're flying out the next day. So first thing I want to say is if you are going to Kona and you are racing Kona, please shoot me an email, jonathan@trainerroad.com. Shoot me an email so then we can get in touch with you guys. We looked at the entry list, and versus we cross-referenced that, a really big percentage of people that have qualified for Kona, it looks like, we're verifying it, but it looks like our TrainerRoad users. So please send us an email if you've qualified for Kona. Also, if you're going to Kona, jump into forum.trainerroad.com. If you're not racing, let us know. We'll kind of get a tally and try to organize something. Maybe if there's enough folks, we could do something, like a happy hour or something like that where we get together. But you're all welcome to join us. We're going to do kind of a mini training camp when we're there. Which is going to be pretty fun.
But not sponsored by TrainerRoad. We're actually just going to get together right on the road.
Yep.
There's no legal responsibility. This is not sponsored by TrainerRoad. It's not a TrainerRoad training camp.
We're riding.
So just say, ride with us. We're going to be at these spots, and you can join us.
Yeah.
Before we start signing waivers.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to be riding on, and I'm just going to run through really quickly. And if you know Kona, you'll know these routes.
And if you don't,
you don't. Sorry. But Tuesday, we're going to be doing the Captain Cook loop. It's a common loop. On Wednesday, we're going to do we're going to be climbing Coloco Drive, which is, for those that don't know, I think it's in 12 miles, you get 4,600 feet of climbing. That's a lot.
14, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we're going to do a Waimea loop. So that's starting in Waikoloa, going to Waimea and back. It's not a ton of climbing. It's still, there's really no way to not get a lot of climbing. And the final day, this is going to be Friday, we're going to do a Captain Cook loop again. We might do a flatter one.
Could be a truncated version of it, yeah.
Yeah, because the race is the next day. And even if you aren't racing, I swear, that's like a lot of training stress just watching that. So
we're looking for rides between probably 2 and 4 hours, I'm thinking. And we plan to depart at 7 a.m.?
7 a.m.
Yeah.
And so this will all be in the forum. Our producer, Nick, is going to put these exact links that's in our spreadsheet into the post for this podcast episode. And I think we can do another separate one just for people coming to Kona that we can do it. Also, if you let us know that you're going to be there, let's give people swag.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bringing over, I think, an entire bag just dedicated to that. So
T-shirts, hats,
Bottles.
Probably not mugs. Mugs are kind of heavy.
Mugs are kind of hard to carry.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
bottles,
Breakable.
hats, and T-shirts.
Yeah. We'll bring it all.
We literally have, I think, 2,500 bottles, so we've got to get rid of them.
We do.
Like, we bought them to give them away.
Oh, man. People are going to be sending messages like crazy now.
You
with
got to
their
come to
addresses.
Hawaii.
Yep. Okay. With that, now let's get into some questions.
Thank God.
Okay, good. Cool. This one's from Jared. He says, I have a question about training in the aero position. I'm a triathlete, so I primarily race there and perform the majority of my long rides there. However, I'm curious if there would be a benefit to doing my hard interval work in the aero position. I just recently performed the new ramp test in the aero position, and after seeing it suggested in your article, or after seeing it described in your article, for the newest test, it says my FTP definitely came back lower than I expected, but it got me thinking. I know that specificity of training should dictate training mostly in aero, but you can generate more power and stimulus to the muscles in an upright position. If I start doing hard intervals in the aero position, would I be shortchanging my results by not applying as much power as I can upright? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, as I have a physiology background, but I'm relatively new to cycling. He says, obviously the aero position has a ton of benefit in a triathlon. I just don't know if it's a good idea to use it for those more intense intervals. I'll probably repeat the test in an upright position soon to see the difference. I'm guessing that the upright score would be more beneficial to my training in general, but not sure. So please let me know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is a this is a topic we've discussed and kicked around quite a lot. So it's not something we take lightly. We don't just throw a quick solution at it and just say that's it. We're right. We've figured it out. We've actually given this a lot of thought, and it kind of boils down to training the position versus training the physiology. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about training the position, that's the specificity that we're talking about. Jared's talking about.
Yep.
So, and that's the crux of it. That's what we have to decide. Where do we draw the line? The physiology. If you just attack the physiology, sit upright, try to maximize the adaptation. That makes sense, right? That you're going to utilize a higher percentage of your oxygen uptake, so it's a greater stimulus, therefore derives with proper recovery, a better adaptation. But you can take cross-country skiers, for example. They generate massive oxygen uptake because they're employing a lot of muscle mass in a very specific manner. Does that mean that will make them a better bike rider? Yeah. Probably not, because it's very not specific. So the muscles that are doing the job cross-country skiing aren't the muscles that you're going to employ on the bike. By that same idea, the muscles you apply you're utilizing in an upright position versus one in an aero position, it might not translate as well. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to say one is absolutely better than the other, but we are leaning towards specificity. If you're going to have to race in this position, it does make sense to train in this position. If you're going to do high intensity efforts in this position and it comes at a lower power output, but that power output is specific to the position you're going to use in a competition, that makes sense to us. Mm-hmm. So,
especially if you're a triathlete, where it's only that.
Yeah.
I would say if you're a 40K time trialist and that's your A2. Maybe not, though, if you're let's say you're a road rider.
Stage racer.
And your TTs are going to be part of it. But
totally.
Yeah, right? Then maybe on that I would be sitting
That's
up.
a strong case for absolutely sitting up and maximizing the physiological adaptation, not worrying so much about the specific position.
Because you're going to be using that on all your road racing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
I think discussing the delta that he would have between the upright
so that's
position.
We'll get to that. Let's first talk about, just keep in mind what your goal is, and your goal is to become a faster triathlete. It's to maximize race performance. So how do you have to decide what's going to work better. And again, we lean more towards this more specific training in the more specific position, even if that's your higher intensity workouts.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So we're looking at the line is between sitting higher and generating more power, but that does require more energy and inspires more fatigue. So there's even that to weigh against it. Totally. Whereas if you stay lower and you're more aero, you utilize less energy. That's less stress on the body, which could lead to a stronger run in the case of a triathlete.
So what you're saying too is you might actually put out less calories, use less glycogen.
Just a less of a toll on your body in general,
which is just huge in triathlon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely
important.
So we did, however, kind of put a hard line on where we say, you're good. There's a difference between your upright FTP and your aero FTP. Don't sweat it unless you've reached this point. And we feel like 5% is a pretty reasonable difference between the two. If there's a 5% discrepancy between your upright position and your down low position, you're probably fine. This is something you can probably overcome by the time you work through the base build and specialty cycle.
Which is how we separate our training plans into 3 sequential phases.
Exactly. And if you don't, and that 5% discrepancy stands, it's what we consider to be minor and not worth concerning yourself with. But you push above that, and that's when it's probably time to start considering, what's wrong with my position. Maybe it's a little too severe. I'm working way too hard for the actual speed I'm garnering. It's a really tough physiological toll. The power is there, but man, it destroys me. Or the power is just not there because my position is just too harsh.
For triathlon, you might have a really closed off hip angle too, which can be pretty difficult to just get out and run based off of that too.
And what some triathletes do to overcome this is you build into your position.
And
so instead of just going slamming it down and you see you have like lost 12% power, you start to lower it slowly, and you as you adapt, and you get better at it, then you just come down 2.5 or 5 millimeters.
We did this very thing with the 40K TT trial. I started with a really high stack on my aero bars, and then each week I would take out 5 millimeters. And then see how that went, and
that's even pretty fast each week.
And it was, and that's what I found too. Because I came down 15 over the course of 3 weeks, and then I had to come back up. And I feel like if I had done that slower, I probably could have managed that 15 millimeter drop if I had taken a little more time getting used to it.
If you had a lot of time, I would do it 5 millimeters every year. Seriously, if you got a 4-year plan to qualify for Kona, in 4 years you drop 20 millimeters.
It's a significant amount, but it won't have a profound effect on your training.
Exactly. And maybe there is then it's easier to notice if you have a huge, an inflection point where you drop off, but don't feel like you have to rush it. The position, it's so, on triathlon, there's the really fast people, they can stay in position, then you go back in the back of the pack. So many people are sitting up because they're uncomfortable.
Oh, totally.
And you are going, it would have been so much better to have huge spacers and just stay aero that whole time than to be super pinched off and then ride half the race sitting up.
Or to even stay low the whole
100%.
race, but just become increasingly uncomfortable and watch your power just slip, and your perceived exertion just climb.
That'd be terrible.
The run gets so hard.
I can only imagine.
Actually, you are really excited for the run. I think I've mentioned this before, but about 5 hours into an Ironman bike, you're like, you know what? I'm really a runner. I'm not a biker. This run is going to be the thing.
I'm ready to get off this bike.
So Nate touched on the fact that if you're going to make changes to the bike, it can be a really gradual process if you have the luxury of time. Same with the actual work or using the workouts to adapt to your position too. You don't have to, if you have a set of 3 20 minutes sweet spot repeats, you don't have to get down there for 20 minutes and just make it last regardless. Get down for a minute, sit up for a minute. Maybe break it down into different spans of time. So you minute down, minute up, minute down, minute up. Then that grows to 90 seconds down, 90 seconds up, etc. I mean, you can play with that and get used to longer durations in that position. And then when it comes to the more intense stuff, like if you do decide to do your VO2 max work, 120%-ish intervals in that low position, maybe you just start the first 30 seconds in that low position, and then you come up when you're starting to run out of air, or you finish in that low position when you're motivated by the promise of the end of the interval. So there are a lot of different ways to gradually ease into sustaining that position and still putting out close to upright FTP.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, that's called a first level bailout. So obviously we would prefer you to stay in aero position the whole time. But if you can't do it,
don't turn down the intensity. Change your position first.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then work into that.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And then after that, maybe take a quick back pedal if you need to. If the back pedal doesn't work, then maybe you need to turn it down.
Or you could skip an interval, depending on what we've talked about this a million times.
A lot of different ways to.
Yeah. If it's billets, you might be skipping a interval back pedaling.
Single. Yeah.
Yep. Ready for Inyaki's question?
I am.
Next one. Cool. Let's do it. He says, hello, I'd like to have a plan with 2 peaks, one at the end of March and then another in July. How should I plan this considering I want to start training in September? So this is a topic that we've covered plenty of different times, but it's a topic that definitely visits, or I should say merits some revisiting, because a lot of people are planning their year right now, just starting into their training, that sort of thing. Now that you have calendar, it's actually really easy to do this sort of thing, TrainerRoad's calendar. So you can throw things on and adjust them from there. So first thing I would recommend, Inyaki, is that you tune into episode 142, because we talk about how to peak twice in a season. So that's very appropriate for what you'd ask. Then on our blog, we have a bunch of different articles. So one is 4 ways to train between peaks. So we really talk about what you would do between those peaks that you would have in your season, which is really in the end kind of what you're getting at here with your question. The other blog post that we have is how to recover, maintain, and build fitness after completing a full training cycle. So after you go base, build, specialty, it covers some options that you have there. And finally, how to prioritize your races and build a seasonal race plan. We talk about different options with multiple different A races or something like that.
So these will be on forum.trainerroad.com. There's a post about this episode, and the links to these blog posts will be in there. So that makes it a lot easier. And what episode number is this, Jonathan?
This is episode 176.
So if you just type in 176 in the forum, I bet you'll find it.
Yep, absolutely. So all of those things will give you a whole lot of information, but I guess what we can do is kind of like, hit the high notes right now, or the high level stuff on this. He has 12. Well, first of all, he has enough time to do a full base build specialty leading into peak 1. And then he has 12 weeks between one A race to the next, which is a significant amount of time.
I think it's an ideal break in between peaks because, I mean, it's whether you're doing like a regional competition and then setting up for a national competition, or a national competition setting up for a world competition, or just, a half Ironman setting up for...
Sounds like me.
Yeah, or just a half Ironman setting up for a full Ironman. It's nice to have that big of a gap in between because you can really reshuffle your training based on how that earlier event goes, and you can bring a whole lot of fitness to that earlier event and then build upon it for the second one. And a 12-week gap is almost perfect for that.
How might you reshuffle your fitness based on the first event?
Well, if you just recognize, like I for the time trial challenge, I think I went a little heavy on the aerobic capacity stuff. And having done the first time trial, or having done the 40K TT, I recognized I needed to spend more time in position. I needed to do more muscle endurance work. I mean, I would have definitely reprioritize the energy systems I was hitting.
As a road racer, you might say, oh, you know what? I'm lacking on anaerobic power because I got dropped on a really big surge.
So I'm going to spend a little extra time targeting, my 30-second bursts.
Totally, this is kind of like how Sea Otter and Nationals falls for me.
It's common, and it may not be exactly 12 weeks, but if it's 8, 10, 14.
So this is what's so cool about the calendar is, let's say you did have an anaerobic problem, then you could, I would clear out delete a plan that I had between there, or clear out the weeks. And I would probably go into maybe short power build and add that in, or go into like criterium or something like that.
Or if you have a plan you like, just pluck out a workout that you think is less vital for a workout that proved to be a weakness. Or
I could take out my Tuesday workouts and make sure they're all anaerobic stuff.
And then another benefit of the calendar, not trying to push the calendar on you guys so hard,
push it.
but you can see the TSS visualization up top, and when you plan the season out, you can see how it pushes you up to a peak for this first peak, and then you'll see your bit of a decline, and then you'll see where if you do the right, or how you structure your training over the next 12 weeks, you can actually visualize where that next peak will bring you, and ideally, and I don't know why you'd go any other way, you want to see a higher peak, and you can structure that just so much more easily when we can actually
see it. It's not Excel spreadsheets. You could do it in Excel, but it took forever. What I found too, what I was doing is, if you're doing it right, and that's what the plans do it's like this gradual increase, and then it comes down.
It's like a wave and then a bigger wave.
Yeah, the waves. Mine are like these spikes where it's like 300, and then it goes, oh, here's a week of 700, and then it goes back down to 300.
Explode.
Because with travel, I try to like pack things in. But I think that's why I get in this constant pattern.
You're outpacing your body's ability to adapt, and it usually leads to illness.
I get impatient with myself. Right?
I
just want more. But this is a good way. I've actually checked myself. I think I've even walked through the calendar. John's seen me do it a lot of times. I'm like, oh, I should not have this big spike.
Totally. I guess focusing in on the time that you should, or how you should trend things between, something that's worked for me personally with a 12-week gap before is going back and doing 4 weeks of base. And then after I do that 4 weeks of base, then I have enough time to fit in a whole specialty plan.
I like that idea very much. And it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're a little burnt, then maybe you make it traditional base and you keep the intensity low for those 4 weeks and you let your body kind of realign. Otherwise, dive into 4 weeks of one of the sweet spot plans. I mean, just a 4-week chunk out of that is a really good way to kind of refresh, get away from full intensity and specificity, and just dial it down and prep yourself for what's to follow, which can be another build phase, could be another specialty phase. But you have 8 weeks to work with, and that's perfectly aligns with the duration of most of our plans.
Yeah, it's a really good way to do it, and I've found really good results with that. Like it really helps, especially. So like I guess just sharing what I'll be doing this year is I'm going to be doing full base build, and then or actually I'll be doing a base and build up until April. And then at that point, I'm actually going to be switching over and just doing a bit of base in a specialty. So kind of the same thing. I think it's a great approach. Hopefully
It's a fun way to go about it. It's really motivating too, because you can see what you got wrong or what you nailed on that first event, and that's so much more information to work with going into that second one. You're not going into a single season peak just hoping that everything pans out the way you planned it.
Yep.
So it's kind of a dress rehearsal.
I love how jazzed Chad is about calendar.
Heck
Oh,
yeah.
it's amazing. I wish I'd had it when I was coaching.
Right, exactly. The next question is from Johannes. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He says, hey, I'm a dedicated podcast listener, and I could listen for hours on end to your detailed, nuanced answers to your questions. Cool. I'm glad, Johannes, because there's a lot of hours of it. So he says, keep it up. My question considers periodization or block periodization. I'm using air quotes around block periodization. I'm not currently a TrainerRoad user, so if you reference your training plans, please state what parts of the plans you are after. We'll keep it devoid of that, or at least just loosely referenced. He says, I'm currently at an FTP of roughly 300 watts, so about 4.3 watts per kilogram, and a pretty high VO2 max of 72.
That's really high.
That's high.
So that's really, really high.
He says, in my latest test, and my volume is about 6 to 9 hours a week of training on the high end in the summer and closer to the low end in winter. He says, last winter I did a block periodization for my interval work that looked like 2 weeks of threshold focus, 1 week of VO2 max focus, 1 week of recovery. Low intensity work was kept roughly constant throughout the entire block. He says, I have 2 questions. Number 1, what are your thoughts on this block periodization as a whole? I'm considering making the block a bit longer for this winter, say 5 weeks instead of 4, while keeping the recovery at 1 week. I'd mainly just be adding more threshold work early in the winter and moving over to more VO2 max work closer to racing season. You want to cover that first before we get into the next question? Cool.
So block periodization is just, it's kind of doing what we do already, but it's just doing it in smaller chunks. So you could look at the base build specialty cycle as 8-week block periodization. Where it differs is block periodization gets a lot more focused at different points in the training trajectory. So rather than focus on VO2 max and anaerobic and some steady state or muscle endurance over the course of a week, every week, you target one of those things and simply maintain the others with just little touch-ups. So this allows athletes to really target something that maybe they're lacking in. It allows high-level athletes to really target things that they can't get enough stimulus by training concurrently and hitting all energy systems, an opportunity to target just one and improve just that one. Mm-hmm. So it has purpose, but it's just like anything else. I mean, it's just another training methodology, and it can work for you, but we've said it, or I've said it a few times, it's just like throw it at the wall, see what sticks. Some things prove highly effective for some riders, some not so much for others, and it comes down to a lot of variables, largely how much time you can commit, the level of performance you've ascended to at that point. It's a workable methodology, though. Mm-hmm. The trick is maintaining the other energy systems while you're focusing on one. And that's the benefit of concurrent training, because we hit everything each week and we gradually, lift, the whole rising tide thing. We lift one thing and something else benefits from it, et cetera. And everything kind of comes up, maybe not at the same rate as if you were to block it, but when you block it, only one thing sees that improvement.
And that can be pretty tough too, because I found that if you're just a week of VO2 max work nonstop, it's really easy to get really fatigued pretty quick.
And it's a lot easier to burn out. But before I took off for Italy, I didn't have enough training in my legs. I knew it, so I did a 2-week block of sweet spot work. And man, I got to say, it saved my butt. Because those were long days, just grinding on the pedals up long, very steep at times climbs, and that's exactly what I needed. So that's all I targeted for that period of time, and it worked. Right. But by the end of that 2 weeks, I didn't want to do any more of that. I really didn't even want to go do the rides that I did do. I was a little burnt out. I overdid it a bit. But the fact is, I got a nice quick bump by focusing on that one thing. Yeah. At the expense of others, though. I mean, I couldn't have sprinted at that point to save my life.
One question he has in here, too, is saying he's going to move from that 4 weeks. So he's going to do 3 weeks on, 1 week off, to 5 weeks on, 1 week off.
That's risky.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. That sounds like me.
Let's
just do more.
That's a big jump. I mean, you've shown yourself that you can handle 3 with a week recovery promised at the end. I'd be hard pressed to go any more than 4. I'd probably just tack on a couple workouts and see how that went. I mean, that's a big leap.
So what you're saying is cautious. Maybe instead of adding that extra week, add more volume in those 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can more subtly nudge it up than to commit to an entire extra week of stress, because that's a long loading cycle. And I question that at the end of it, he's going to be able to rebound after a single week of recovery.
If he's using TrainerRoad workouts, which I'm sure he is, you could just do a +1 where it just adds 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You get one extra interval. You do that 1 or 2 workouts a week. Chad, wouldn't that be a great way to add a little bit extra volume?
Yeah, it's probably would be my first recommendation.
And something, his next question is asking about adding in more anaerobic work. He's wondering if he should sprinkle it in. And maybe that's a great way to do it on the anaerobic ones, is just to have a workout that just adds maybe one more interval, that sort of a thing. Yep. Because then I know that I've found that you kind of get a lot of this stuff if you've ever done like a week of racing. Like last year, I think I did a road race, which was largely like really hard VO2 efforts, really hard. I did a criterium and a time trial. The time trial was super short, all like a bunch of really high intensity work 3 days in a row. Mm-hmm. And then I had a Friday race and a Saturday race as well. So like that was a really packed week, all extremely high intensity short racing. And it really takes a toll, even for somebody like me that really loves that sort of training. My body readily absorbs it. Mm-hmm. It can really take a toll.
Interbike week was crazy.
Yeah, I think the lack of sleep was the hardest part, right?
Well, sleeping, drinking, and racing.
Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah,
it's pretty rough.
Still reeling.
Something that I guess kind of applies to this, and it's a question that we've gotten before and we've talked about before, is kind of what happens to your body, I guess, in terms of how the fitness, the residuals you get from this different sort of fitness or different focus you'd get.
Yeah, and we broke this down really specifically. I can't remember what the episode number was. We'll look that up. But I'll touch on it really quick. I'll just give you a fast rundown of it, but there is a more detailed discussion on the matter. So when you're focusing on one energy system or one type of fitness, and you don't want to fully neglect the others that you've worked hard to build, you want to maintain them, but it doesn't take a heck of a lot to maintain them. So in the case of your aerobic endurance, if you can get a single ride, a long ride in about every 2 weeks, every 10 to 14 days, that has proven sufficient to maintain your aerobic base. With anaerobic work, just one, and this goes for steady state work like sweet spot or threshold repeats. It also goes for sprints. It's just a 1 time a week touch up. Yep. So in the case of anaerobic efforts, like a workout that consisted of 30 to 60 second repeats with adequate recovery in between.
Yeah.
A couple 20-minute sweet spot repeats would touch up your muscle endurance, and then just a sprint workout where you're doing 5, 6, 8 sprints, keep them short, 10, 12 seconds tops, will touch up the lactic system. So these types of fitness don't go away that quickly, and they don't take a whole lot to hang on to.
Yeah, which is pretty nice. The episode that we were talking
Some
about
dissipate more quickly, though.
Right. It's episode 140, and we talk about how things kind of last and everything else. You can check that out.
So I'm going to say, you have this written in here, but anaerobic or aerobic endurance is 30 days?
Yeah, so you don't take a big hit to any of these energy systems until they've seen, and it's a range. It's not hard 30 days. So we'll say 30 days,
31. Midnight,
that's it.
You
it's
are
gone.
slow.
No, it's like 30 days plus or minus 5. So we're talking like a 25 to 35 day range.
But it's still a drop off, right?
That's where the biggest drop starts to happen. So if you don't catch it before then, it's going to be a lot longer road back. And then with anaerobic power, it's more like 20 days. With muscle endurance, your steady state, sweet spot, threshold stuff, about 15 days. In sprints, you gotta stay on those bad boys. It's about 5 days, and it starts to go away.
And that's too where kind of we've talked about sprinting. You don't need to start in November.
that fitness builds quick and it dissipates quick.
Yeah, so you kind of do it at the end.
Yeah.
And then producer Nick, can we get this information into the forum? Great. So
He's
forum.
on it.
Look at me. Forum.trainerroad.com.
Yep.
Search for episode 176, and all this stuff will be in there too.
Yep. Cool. Absolutely. Next one's from Rick. He says, "Hope you're well. I'm a very in all caps recreational cyclist. Over the past 3 years, I've spent a couple of months into my cycling. Then life takes over and interest tails off. This year, I started well, February through April, but following the birth of my first child, I stepped off the bike once again. Not to be blamed for that at all, Rick. That's common, and I think it's admirable too as well. So,
but it's also okay if you don't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And tell people how to live.
He says, we're now in July, and I've signed up for TrainerRoad, and I'm determined to improve. Firstly, get back to where I was in April. He says, firstly, I'm trying to get back to where I was in April, then push on and see where I can take my fitness to. I have no specific goals beyond this at the present time. He also mentions that I'm not carrying a great deal of fitness at present, and being realistic, I'm carrying too much weight for my 6'2" frame. He says he's 96 kilograms. So he says, I'm undertaking your sweet spot base phase and have just commenced week 3. I note that in a few sessions I've completed so far, there are various prompts to undertake single leg exercises. I have to confess that I've skipped these, as when I take my left leg off the pedal, the sessions seem to pause because I'm using a stage's left side power meter, and the kicker is my setup. So before we get any further into his question, we should just address that part. You can actually take, you'll get 0 power reading for that sort of stuff. And there's no way around it with the stages.
Yeah, because it's only measuring one side. And actually what the stage does is it doubles one side.
Yep.
So when it's on the left. So if you do single leg on the left, it's going to be double the amount. And then if you go single leg on the right, it's going to say 0.
Yeah, so you'll get like normal looking wattage, on one side and nothing on the other.
Yeah.
So
when it should be half on one side.
Stages,
That's just the way
however,
it is.
now has left-right.
Yep.
So that would fix that sort of issue. But that's just what it is there. If it is pausing the workouts, though, there's a feature in TrainerRoad where you can turn on pause or play workouts with cadence, and you could turn that off, and it would not pause the workout at least.
Yeah.
So
it won't auto pause if your cadence goes to 0.
Yep, exactly right. Okay, so he says, to be frank, the sessions are challenging enough at the present, and my focus is on completing the efforts. So whilst I'm trying to follow the text, I'm principally focused on the effort. My question is twofold. Do you think I am materially erroneous in my approach? That is to say, given my beginner status, do you think focusing on the effort is most important, or am I being short-sighted? Secondly, when I do get around to following these single leg drills, is there a solution to the workout not pausing? So we covered that part for you. So let's just cover that part, I guess. The main thing here, single leg drills.
Yeah, so anytime I have speed drills or form drills or, what else is in there? Just any of the recommendations I make during the workout text, those are icing on the cake. So first and foremost, the intervals are what you're after. And if that means omitting the drills or turning the text off, whatever, do that. I mean, you need the fitness first. We're not trying to build form before fitness. The priority is always going to be on making you a capable rider first, and then we'll refine how well you ride your bike later. If we can do it at the same time, great.
Yep.
But if not, just focus on the quality of the workout.
Yeah.
The intervals, I should say.
Now, Nate, you said that, when you've been going through these ones, that you don't usually do the pedaling drills. You feel like you've reached a point of proficiency with that sort of thing where it doesn't deliver a whole lot of benefit.
Expert. So 10 years ago or 12 or 13 or whatever it was when I was doing Chad's indoor power classes,
12.
I was totally doing all of those. But now, I noticed that I think that I'm okay with it is that in a race, I can spin from 120 down to 70, and it all feels good. I don't feel like I'm out of my element ever. So it's just the amount of years that I don't. Sometimes I do it, and sometimes it's just entertainment. But I really just focus on the power.
Yeah, they're skills that once you build, it's kind of like what we were just talking about. The maintaining them doesn't take a whole heck of a lot, and sometimes it's not required at all. I mean, just the sheer act of riding your bike and doing group rides and racing handles all of that. Yep. But if you're a new rider, I absolutely recommend doing it. And if you're a rider who's never done them before, I recommend at least trying it. You might find some form of improvement, and if you can make even the smallest improvement in how you turn the pedals over one time, imagine how that magnifies across thousands and thousands and thousands of revolutions.
For me, starting, it was pedaling at different cadences felt so weird.
At first?
Coming from a triathlete background.
At first, getting like a higher cadence was really hard, and then it was weird. Like once I got used to that, then getting to a lower cadence was really hard.
Yeah.
So try to be more. Now I feel like I'm more adaptable, flexible.
So conversely, I'm like hungry for more and more drills in the workouts that I have right now, and it's awesome to have them.
Trying to retrain movement patterns.
Exactly right.
Subtly, but yeah.
I'm very focused on biomechanics and making sure that my knee injuries don't crop up again, right? So a lot of PT, and then when I'm on the bike, I'm not just pedaling and calling it good. And it should be stated that right now the training isn't difficult to hit any numbers or anything like that, right? So I'm not compromising hitting my targets, but it's a chief focus actually for me is to make sure that I can hit those different cadence ranges and do so in an efficient and safe manner with my knee, and I'm not, wobbling side to side. There's no instability in my foot or ankle or anything else like that, but it's actually going through checking in my mind, like, are my glutes engaging properly? Can I feel that? Right? Like, because it's impressive to see you may have it down at 85 RPM, but when you go to 95 RPM, it might go sideways. Like, and you might not even see the issues, but pay attention to how your muscles are actually firing and feel those contractions. And you may notice that you really pedal sloppily, even though it may not look sloppily. It may be very sloppy once you pick up or drop your cadence. We see so many people once that drops the cadence, they start pedaling with their ears and shoulders, right? They're throwing their whole entire body into it. And that's something that if you're doing that, especially on a trainer, then it can be pretty tough. So
Yeah, a trainer, excuse me, a trainer's a really good place to practice this sort of thing too, because it's really no consequence. I mean, doing single leg drills out on the road.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, unless you're really quite adept at them, and it could be argued that why would you even do them if you're already quite good at them?
Yeah, rollers, another thing that I would just say with these pedaling drills, you may think that you have your pedaling drills down when your bike is perfectly stable, but then when you get on rollers, it's fantastic because there's a level of instability there that really requires you to ride with more core engagement as well, and it just refines the patterns with your legs. So, so stick with them. If you have, or if you feel like you could improve, if you feel like it's fine, you don't need to go, then, sure, skip them. But the main thing is don't sacrifice the quality of the workout. So... Carlos, he says, I have a question related to heart rate during sessions like Gould that begins, or he says, begin the interval set with a high output interval. After some minutes, this drops down to little or below threshold, or a little below threshold. He says, in the beginning of the interval, my heart rate ramps up as expected. But when power returns to something more manageable, and he says that in quotes, and he says he's quoting you with a smiley face. You call it manageable. Maybe he disagrees. Yeah. He says my heart rate stays on a level above what it would be if I were to keep that power output without the initial charge. Also, even doing the belly breathing, I'm not able to bring it down. It just keeps stable at that high beat per minute range. So any thoughts on this? Is this normal? Or should I be able to drop my heart rate during these intervals where the first part of the set is really hard?
Yeah, so Carlos, that's exactly the design of the workout. That's exactly what we're after. Mm-hmm. So we're looking to get that initial surge in the heart rate and your oxygen uptake and get you huffing and puffing, ramp up your heart rate and breathing, which move linearly together, and then hold it there. And we have better luck, and coaches and physiologists have better luck holding it there if they don't just do the bash you over the head 3-minute, 5-minute intervals where you just hang on for dear life, and you're whether the power and the heart rate and the oxygen uptake are the same the whole time, it just gets harder and harder and harder, and your perceived exertion just goes through the roof.
Yep.
So the first couple minutes are manageable. Next minute or two is pretty awful, and then it's just a death march over that last minute, and that's proven to be not the most motivating type of training. People don't want to do that too often. So we find different ways to get the uptake up really quickly, and then to hold it there without overburdening the muscles with high acidosis and the burn and the fatigue and the demotivation that comes with it. And there are a lot of ways to go about it, and the ones you're describing is with that hard start where we ramp things up and then we knock things down to a point where you can't lower your breathing or heart rate. So we're still getting that we're still hitting that target of the increased oxygen uptake and the later adaptations that will inspire, but without running you into the ground by asking you to stay there, and probably shortchanging the workout because you just can't stay there that long. So that's just one approach. And what we're trying to avoid is it when you do get it up too quickly and try to stay there, it's just a gradual descent into misery. And
been there.
Yeah, we all have. It's not a fun way to train. Effective, but it's not a workout I want to do again and again and again.
Right.
Then if you rise too slowly and you gradually elevate breathing and heart rate, you get to a point where you just can't push it any higher. You've kind of steadily ramped up the fatigue, and there's really no room for you to grow. You're never going to hit that maximal oxygen uptake or get close to it, and you'll miss out on that particular form of stress. And then there's the intermittents that we do all the time, the shorts, where you jack it way up so your breathing and heart rate go up, and then you do a quick rest to kind of remove some of the muscle acidosis, some of the lactate accumulation recirculates, and you can do it again and again and again and again, and the whole time you're already at a high heart rate and oxygen uptake, and that just creeps up over it. But your perceived exertion and your the acidosis has an opportunity to decline in between each of those, and it comes down just to a point where that next little push is manageable, and you think you're just going to die, and then it's over, and then you get another little break. But over the course of maybe 8 minutes of those repeats, you get in 4 minutes worth of work. Whereas if you would have tried to tackle that 4 minutes straight on, you wouldn't have spent that much time at that highly elevated state.
Isn't there a little bit of race specificity, like that where you go hard? That's like breakaways.
And a lot of those workouts, and I think he's describing Gould, but there's also race winners, there's hard starts. Those have that effect, but that's not exactly what I'm targeting. More in those cases, I'm targeting exactly that, race specificity. What's it like to go full gas for 30 seconds and then try to settle in at 95% threshold. There's a lot of benefit to be derived from that sort of familiarization outside of the physiological adaptations.
Jonathan, you're good at that because in the crits to see, that's how you make it stick a breakaway.
Yeah, I've pretty much never not won a race without an effort like that, right?
I've never been to a mountain bike race that didn't start exactly that way. I've never been to a mountain bike race that rolled out slowly.
Or a crit, or not a crit,
cyclocross.
Or cyclocross.
Too.
Yeah.
Yep, they push hard. And also, think for those of you that don't do those races, but you've done a road race, let's say, heck, even like a Grand Fondo, there was a decisive moment at some point in that race, right? And this sort of fitness puts you in the driver's seat a bit, and it can be really helpful rather than just being, a passenger along for the ride.
It's the opposite thing too, where you guys are so fast. This is also where if you can do this, you don't get dropped.
Yeah.
Where everyone surges and then it stays hard for only like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you can just hang for those 2 minutes, you're good.
They're just shaking off dead weight. They're saying, that's how you take a field of 50 and whittle it down to 40 and then down to 30.
It's gonna drop down eventually.
Yeah. Producer Nick, can you put a picture of Gould and a link into the show notes?
Yeah.
I just went through the show notes.
Yeah.
Fantastic job, Nick. It's amazing. You're actually putting like more stuff than we're talking about. So again, I'll probably mention it more times. Forum.TrainerRoad.com, episode 176. It's
Nick's
cool.
nailing it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so I can't stress enough how important I feel for the type of racing that I do, which is cross-country mountain biking, cyclocross, criteriums, and road races, how important this sort of training is. And like I know that Chad said, yeah, that's the intent, but for all of us, that's par for the course too. We should say that seeing our heart rate not drop down to where we would expect for that normal power output, that's par for the course. So in this case, Carlos, don't worry, it's nothing abnormal.
Pretty much in general, don't worry about your heart rate.
Yeah,
worry about doing the power, and then Chad's worrying about where everything should be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'll take care of the rest.
All right, we're gonna rip through 2 more questions. Sound good?
Okay.
Cool. This one's from Justin. He says, thanks for the amazing podcast. My wife and I sometimes joke that it's the podcast dedicated to making our son a sleepier baby.
Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, hey, I know how it goes. He says it always helps him nap when we are driving around running errands on the weekends. He says, I think it's the soothing voices. My wife was a radio talent and promotion major and complimented you all on your articulation and enunciation.
Oh, yay for us.
Thank you very much,
Nice.
Justin's wife. Very kind. I hope that your baby is sleeping well. Justin then says, I have what may be a silly nutrition question. I try to fit my weekend rides in early and don't often have time to eat beforehand. I can already hear Coach Chad saying just wake up earlier, but please hear me out. I know that for shorter rides, less than an hour to an hour and a half, you can typically get away with eating beforehand just as you can, without eating beforehand, just as you can with indoor rides. Thanks for the correction, guys. It says when getting out for a ride around 2.5 hours or more, this of course doesn't work out so well. I usually need to leave very early in the mornings before my sun is up and before the summer heat really kicks in. Usually that's just enough time to kit up and get out the door. Do you have any suggestions on what to eat that may be convenient, like bars, chews, or gels, and how to space them out before and during a ride so that I'm not riding without anything in my system? He says, I do have a gluten allergy, so pick things like toast and English muffins. Quick things, forgive me, that are out of the question. Or he says, quick things like that are out of the question. He says, I'm willing to admit that I'm carrying a few extra pounds, so I'm sure most people would say don't eat anything. However, based on all the episodes I listened to, this seems possibly counterproductive. I guess things that you... This is, I guess we could take this a different direction. We could talk about, I guess, the fasted side, if that's their goal.
Yeah, well, first let's just consider the type of workout you're doing, because if you're just going to go out and log long, slow distance and work at 60, 65%, even 70%, whatever, of your FTP, then you might not need anything. You can get away with quite a long fasted ride. I don't really like to prescribe fasted rides any longer than a couple hours. I think past that, you've missed... or you've achieved all the benefit you're really going to get anyway, and it just like we were talking about with the intervals before, it's kind of a descent into a place.
Slog.
Yeah. It just stops being fun, and it could be argued that it stops being productive too. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to do high intensity work and it's going to last that long, obviously you're going to need to eat something. Mm-hmm. You already mentioned the fact that if it's a short ride, hour, 90 minutes even, you can probably get away with it, considering the intervals only compose some of that 90 minutes. And as long as you didn't deplete the night before and you woke up with fully stocked muscle stores, and you can get through quite a lot of work without any food, then it becomes more about your post-workout nutrition.
Yep.
But as far as these longer rides, assuming there's going to be healthy doses of intensity injected throughout, that's when we're going to start talking about, the type of foods. And before we get into specifics, you want high glycemic foods. You don't want things that are going to take a long time to metabolize. Again, depending on the type of workout you're doing. I mean, I don't know if you're going to go out and do threshold repeats, and then in which case maybe it doesn't need to be quite so high glycemic.
Yeah, probably you want to stay away from things with a ton of fiber and that sort of stuff.
Certainly fiber, certainly fat, probably healthy amounts of protein. A little dose of protein has been shown to have some
But you
some
don't want
benefit.
just bacon and eggs and that's it.
Yeah.
No.
So I guess
for sure not.
I guess we can run into some suggestions that we have. Nate, you had a great suggestion since
Yeah,
he has a gluten allergy.
How about gluten-free toast? I got time for toast. Gluten-free toast and honey.
Yeah, that could work.
And we're talking like just prior to the ride too. So like 10 minutes as you're kitting up, saddling up. I mean, before you head out that door,
get the toaster going.
That's a good time.
In the U.S., we have what are called Panda Puffs, and I'm almost positive they're gluten-free.
I think
They're corn-based. That with a banana.
Yeah.
Cereal, I can down a bowl of cereal in like 60 seconds.
Multiple at times.
Box takes about a minute
For
and a half.
those, I swear I should have taken photos documenting you at Leadville. That was stunning.
But it's
could not believe it.
I mean, cereal is usually high glycemic and
Yep.
I mean, and low fat, and you can put some fruit on it.
Gets in your blood quick.
Exactly.
Does.
Okay,
Another one.
this
Okay.
is
Do you have
probably-
another theme, Dad?
I've done this, but like Cinnamon Toast Crunch and stuff, like you get some of the more sugary kiddie cereals.
Yeah.
But I feel if I'm doing it right before a ride,
Yeah.
that's the time to do it. My son likes
Right before.
I'm a horrible parent, and we allow our kid to eat Captain Crunch, but Captain Crunch
okay.
right before, that's delicious. That makes you like you want to just do the ride, and then once you eat it, you get so depressed and like guilty that you do not bail your
You
ride.
have to
Is
do it.
Captain Crunch still like eating a mouthful of razor blades? That stuff used to slice my mouth like
It's
crazy.
if you
in my
eat too
mouth.
much, yeah.
Yeah, okay, still the same then. Hasn't changed. Okay.
It's not fit for human consumption.
Yeah, exactly. Gluten-free pancakes could be an option. I use Birch Benders. You can get them at
gluten-free,
most.
right?
Yeah, they
No,
have
they have a gluten-free
They have
version.
a gluten-free mix. They have a bunch of different mixes, really good ones. But as silly as this sounds, I actually picked this up from friend of the podcast, Keegan Swenson and Sofia Gomez Villafane. They'd make pancakes, then carry them out for their mid-ride food sometimes. So they'd have their goo gels, they'd have everything else.
Potato
they'd have a pancake.
pancakes. That'd be gluten free.
So for the Birch Benders gluten free, what you do, and my wife's really good at this, you make a whole bunch of pancakes and you put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
And you can store them for a long time. Then you take them out, you can just microwave them or toast them depending on how you want the consistency.
Yep.
So it's a quick way to get carbs in the morning.
And if you're going to be riding just like, and you want to carry something with you, pancakes are extremely portable. You don't just toss it into your jersey pocket. I'd usually put it inside a bag. You'll have like sweaty pancake everywhere. That'd be gross. But
Would you
yeah,
put anything on them or just straight pancake?
I would just do straight pancake with the Birch Benders stuff. It's not particularly sugary, but they have a really good flavor to them.
And they're kind of spongy and chewy,
Yes.
which is kind of fun to eat.
Yeah,
rather
you'll
than
no-
a regular pancake.
You'll notice that some regular pancake mixes are clearly made to be used. Either they're very sugary or they're made to be paired with a lot of maple syrup or something. These ones, you can even eat them on their own. And
I
they're
agree.
good. So Birch Benders should be paying us for this sort of stuff. SIS gels.
They
an
should be
option.
paying us too.
Yeah, right.
Salted strawberry.
SIS
Which is
being science and sport.
It could be any gel,
Totally.
but
Yeah.
we like the.
We've found those ones to work.
I disagree. I think the SIS gels and their isotonic formula is the way to go.
Yeah, we found that they don't screw. That's the only gel I've used that doesn't screw up my stomach. So those ones could be good. Also, rice cakes. This could be really nice too because you could have like a rice cake with Scratch Labs, their portables book. You can get that. They have one of them I absolutely love. It's brown sugar, so it's rice, brown sugar, a little bit of egg, and a little bit of bacon. Oh, it's delicious. It's like breakfast in a little rice cake, and you can get that. That's easy to eat. That's something that you can cook a bunch of them beforehand. Like on the weekend, we'll usually, if I have a lot of training or racing coming up, we'll make like a full platter of the things, and then we'll wrap them all up. So then you can just grab from the fridge, toss it in your pocket, and roll. That could be another good option too.
And two, with the waking up early, I think we only suggest that for big races.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you're doing for Leadville, I woke up early enough because I wanted to get extra food in.
Yeah.
But for workouts, I wouldn't wake
for-
up early to try to get extra
For most
food in.
stuff, my advice is simple. It's just preload the night before.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have dinner. Don't do a hard workout and go to bed carb deprived and then
Yeah.
expect to have anything the next day. Top off the morning of. That's like a just prior sort of thing, 30 minutes, 10 minutes ideally. and then just eat early and often over the course of the ride, depending on the intensity.
Yeah, and the one thing that I've found, like when I was doing fasted rides, I would ride for 60 to 90 minutes without taking something, and then just eat like normal thereafter.
Yeah.
If you're looking to just not do the fasted approach and just make sure you have enough fuel for the ride, then eating somewhat regularly, whether it's every half hour, whether it's whatever it is, but within an hour, you just want to take in enough that you're not depriving yourself too much. So, and you can figure that out with the power meter. It'll tell you how many calories you burn. Really easy. And we have an article on that on the blog. I believe you can check that out. So look up nutrition. You'll be able to find a bunch of ones. Okay. Artem, this is the final one, and this one's kind of toward you, Nate. So we'll get into this one. He says, "Dear coaches, in the past few podcasts, you've gone in great length at how to be a successful support crew with logistics." Or he says, with logistics being a main part of the conversation, taking care of things based on the racer's behalf, supporting strategies. These are all very interesting episodes, but eventually it drove me to wonder how much well-organized external help actually aids the rider. This means that someone that goes out on their own without a support crew has to fight so much harder. This has always baffled me about road races with domestiques shuttling their key riders, but in the pro field, playing a team sport, I could understand this. Outside the pro field, however, it feels extremely unfair to the rest of the competitors. Would Nate have gotten his sub-9 belt buckle if not for Jonathan and Chad? Or is it really Nate's own result? Not to hate on Nate, we all love him very much, but just posing an objective question. What are your views on the topic?
Yes, it's still my result. Thanks
Yeah.
for the podcast, everyone. No, I mean it's.
Did you appeal to get us medals too, Nate?
Yeah, exactly.
You jerk.
So Leadville it's very beneficial to have a support crew.
Yeah,
I mean, but you kind of have to.
Yes.
It's kind of its own animal. We were trying to figure out if there actually were aid stations over the...
I sent out some questions to some other people. One person said no. Another person said, I think so.
That there's race
I
aid
think so.
stations.
That there was aid provided at Leadville.
So there's the neutral aid
Neutral
stations.
aid.
I saw that, but in the the places where the support crews are, I mean, there are hundreds of people.
Yes.
Like it's almost a
hundreds.
1-to-1 ratio between
If not
racers
more.
and support. Yeah, actually, some people may
'Cause
have more.
families and friends. Like, there's a lot of folks.
So it's not like I go through here and it's everyone else is stopping at the race aid station and it's Jonathan and Chad.
Just the TrainerRoad show.
Yeah.
Us,
It's like a big party. And
We-
chock full of
We
people.
had minimal support actually compared to many of them.
Yeah, we were just a couple guys standing with bottles. People had like a whole camp set up and flags that showed their rider where to, look for them.
They
was
had
pretty
people
elaborate.
stationed at each aid station along the way instead of a rotating group.
Yeah.
So I think that for big one-day amateur races like this is par for the course.
well, it's actually I think it's part of the strategy.
Yes.
Just like saying, "Hey, you have a mechanic. Is that cheating? Because it's not your own." No, like you should go to a mechanic, especially
Yep.
me and a lot of this stuff. But you know what I mean? It's like it's part of the checklist of doing it is to have, at least for Leadville, is to have a support crew.
Yeah, you can do it without one, sure. But man, it would
Can
be
you?
extremely hard.
Actually, how many bottles would you have to carry?
Yeah, it's true.
No, I
Have
mean
to stow them along the course,
It'd be
or
tough.
as long as there's those aid stations at the ones, you could do it yourself. And I know
you
they
did
had a.
see these aid stations though, like actually saw them. Did
I
you
don't
just
know.
hear
I
about them?
thought I did, but it could have been a very elaborate setup aid station for like
Somebody
a group,
else.
like a
That's
a
all
team.
I found. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking for it either.
Right.
Yeah, we
because-
were.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were.
And you guys didn't see it.
No, we never found it.
So maybe if someone in
There's a ton of people helping, but never neutral.
TrainerRoad.com
Yeah.
could put in there, and I'm not talking about the aid stations that there's a Columbine or the last one I think at St. Kevin's,
Yeah.
where the support crew is not allowed. Those
Right.
are neutral ones.
At the ones where the support crew was allowed, the only neutral support that we saw was from specific brands. So there would be like, I think it was Motion Pro or VeloFix or something had like a mechanics area. And then I think that like I saw Cliff or Goo there, but they were helping their athletes.
Well, no, Goo was the sponsor, so maybe
yep.
that was the neutral one because Goo was the race sponsor.
And
Right.
what did they provide?
Yeah.
Well, you probably didn't notice.
I don't know, I didn't.
I know Yuri Oswald was out on course offering goos to some people, but once again, the main thing with a lot of those brands is supporting their sponsored athletes on that day because that's the main deal. So I think it's all part of these big one-day races. That's part of it for sure. And if you do choose to race it without a support crew, that's a choice that you would make knowing that you would be at a disadvantage in relation to people with a crew because that's just the way that game is played.
Another part of the sport, bike. Like I had a very expensive bike, the S-Works Epic, and someone's on $1,000 bike.
Yeah.
Does Nate have an advantage being on a modern cross-country bike? Yes.
Yeah.
On a 1980s bike.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah. It's unfortunately not. It's never like just directly fair across the board.
Yeah.
One man has to work more than another. You know what I mean?
It would only be unfair if, for instance, you guys were in a spot where you weren't allowed to be.
Exactly.
And no one else could be there, and I was taking advantage over other people there.
Yes.
But so at Leadville, I think we time it? 3.5 minutes of stops that I had? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, total.
I think it was under 4. And with the aid stations, maybe it could have been double that pretty easily.
Yeah, I know that for us, it was definitely no longer than a minute each stop. It was, in fact, I'd say it's closer to 30 seconds.
Yeah. We could have gone even faster.
Chad, Brandon, and I were a well-oiled machine.
You are.
Yeah, we got better over the course of it too.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it wouldn't have been
a huge difference.
Exactly. So maybe it was twice as long to fill
in terms of time.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that's just kind of the way those races work. If you're going to do those big long day races, that's part of the race. I would recommend refining that strategy. Yep. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. If you're with us on the live stream, joining us from the TrainerRoad Forum, stick with us. We're going to look at some of the questions that you all have thrown in the forum this week. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, hop over to the forum and check that out, forum.trainerroad.com. And if you have questions you want to submit for the next podcast, please do so at trainerroad.com/podcast. Share the podcast with other cyclists that are like-minded. If you have questions about what we're doing at TrainerRoad, want to check out the new calendar, anything else like that, you can go check it out on trainerroad.com. You can shoot our support agents a question if you have questions about features. They're on live chat. Plenty of different things. We're all here to help. So we'll talk to you all next week with a unique episode because I think Nate won't be here with us.
Oh.
So
I don't know if it's better or worse. We'll see. It'll be different.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Someone, Michael Dunn asks, what are your thoughts on Hammer nutrition products? I used to use Hammer in like 2007, 2008. I used Perpetuum back then, and I would get like these very small bottles, and it would be really, really pasty, almost to the point where the water, like it couldn't even come out. So it may have changed from then, but back then I thought it tasted like liquid Cheerios. Mm-hmm. That's when you get that really thick stuff.
It's the texture too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried using Perpetuum. I Hammer products really hard on my stomach.
Yeah, I've used them, but I didn't stick with them. I have learned a lot off their website, though. Their PhD, William Meisner, is a pretty knowledgeable dude.
Mm-hmm. Hub Cyclist says, regarding starts in cyclocross, I'm interested in that discussion. Not sure how other parts of the country do staging, but in New England, you get staged by your cross results points. So he's just trying to get, change his points for that. This is a totally unique race because this is the industry race. So that's how it works for all other racing too in this region. But in this case, it was a fun industry race. So they did a thing where they called up the sponsors first. So that was cool.
Brian says, I signed up for TrainerRoad Annual, and the new calendar feature looks awesome. Thank you.
Sweet. Alpha Dog says, will you be building a periodized training plan? I mean, the training plans themselves, like we said earlier, just to rehash a bit of what Chad said, but the periodized training plan, how we were talking about these periodized blocks earlier, they're principles that we utilize and employ throughout our training plans as is.
Yeah, it's all periodized training.
Yep.
Alex asks, I saw you guys, Pete, Jonathan, and Nate at the Reno Cyclocross live streaming. Why Nate was so far in the back while you guys were in the front row. Nice to see you guys. So Pete was in the front because he's on Team Cliff Bar, and Cliff Bar was a sponsor, so he also got up. I also had bought a truck from Reno Dolan, but I didn't get.
I bought it last week though.
But what does that matter? They didn't say.
It mattered enough to get me to the front row.
I know.
So
I could have. I said I bought a truck there too.
He's bitter.
Yeah, he's very bitter about it, isn't he? He's a little salty. Oh man. Okay.
Jonathan was not amused by Nate's version of the story.
No.
Someone says.
There was a lot of bitter tone to that. I felt like it was pretty jovial with a lot of ribbing from some folks, for sure. But yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So Osmond says, I usually eat a fig bar during a ride. I try to stay away from gels unless it's a race. Usually that sort of advice is usually coming as intensity rises. You want something that can break down a little bit easier. If intensity isn't quite as high, then you can get away with eating more solid foods that take a little longer to break down. So that's kind of the guideline on that.
Paul says for the kits that the pro shorts were $8.90.
Oh, that seems like a lot.
That seems like
too much.
Don't buy it if it's that price.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah,
that it's not that nice. Someone says it looks very nice. It's not $190.
800.
Yeah, $890. I don't exactly. Right. So, producer Nick, can you look into that for us?
Yeah.
And with Chelsea and see what that issue is, because if there is an $890 price up there, that's either by mistake. We should take that one down.
Yep.
Please don't spend $890 on those.
No shorts are that nice.
No shorts are that nice.
A few folks saw this, so we'll cover this. Somebody says, great podcast as ever. About a week ago, someone from TR mentioned that we would be discussing polarized training this week. Sorry if I missed a quick mention of that status of the conversation, but he says, I know a lot of people are eager to get your take. All in due time. We're doing lots of cool research that we feel like is going to provide a lot of insight on this with all the data that we have, which is a massive amount of data. This is probably going to be most data.
Productive discussion.
Yeah, most data ever utilized to take a look at this whole thing. We're going to cut it off there.
Okay, cut it off there.
But it's coming at some point. Don't worry.
But it'll probably be. It'll be a little bit because
it'll be a while.
I've got some work travel coming up, so I want to be there when it happens.
It'll be a while, but it'll be worth the wait. We can promise that much. Alex says, as you train and improve your FTP, are hard exercises supposed to feel easier, or should they feel just as hard as before, and you're just able to do them for longer or make them harder? I assume when he says harder, I mean, greater power output. He says, my FTP grew by 50 watts over the last year. I'm now at 4.6 watts per kilogram now, which is awesome. He says, but things don't seem to feel any easier.
No, never gets easier. You only get faster. I mean, we've heard it 1,000 times.
I wonder if he really did say that. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? Yeah.
I think he actually did.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better if the faster you got, the easier training got?
Yeah.
Sometimes racing gets easier if racing with the same level of people.
If it's like an extremely prohibitive climb, like a really steep one, that might get easier to get over the climb.
In the same time.
Yeah. Well,
once you start getting, once you get faster, it's not like you don't.
I found it only gets harder.
You use the fitness, right?
You get a deeper understanding of just how hard you can push yourself, and you learn to expect that, and it just gets tougher. You just learn where your so-called limits are, and you just keep on pushing them out. It's it only gets tougher, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is there any advantage to doing a second base progression before specializing? So he says, sweet spot base 1, sweet spot base 2, going into our build plan, then going back and doing sweet spot base 1, sweet spot base 2, then doing build, then specialty.
Yeah. If your season accommodates it, that's a great way to go, especially considering each time you garner any improvement, you're going to adjust your FTP. And just like we just talked about, it's not like it's going to be a smoother pass through sweet spot base that second time through. You're going to do it with a higher FTP, and the workouts are going to be just as hard as they were the first time with that lower FTP.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Lance asks, he said, Nate, my computer glitched and maybe I missed it. When you include strength training on the calendar, how do you calculate or figure TSS? And there's no TSS calcs for strength training. You could put it in to try to track like fatigue. I personally don't do it. I just leave it at 0 so it doesn't show up. That's very much like Coggin said, it's not meant for that, but other people like to keep track of that. And we had a conversation about this yesterday. It's kind of the two theories of, one, should my 6-week average, should that be a measure of my fitness? Or should it just be more of a canary of I am doing too much work? And people live on both sides of that. So if, for instance, you were doing very heavy gym sessions and maybe you're doing squats and full body stuff and deadlifts, that's very taking a toll on you. I'm not advocating this, but you could put some type of TSS in there knowing that, well, now I'm maybe going to try to do 40 less points of train stress points that week for cycling because this is taking a toll on me, but it's not making you an actual like faster cyclist probably. I mean, maybe indirectly, and that's a whole nother debate, but so it's just two different ways to think of it.
Assigning TSS to things like that is difficult to say the least.
Totally.
So I think I would just use the annotations to make a note of what sort of lifting I did, and I might make it just as simple as lifted light, lifted medium, lifted heavy, something like that. So I could just trend it.
Yeah. Somebody was asking on YouTube if they could watch the live stream over in the forum. I guess I failed to specifically mention that it is embedded in the post, so you can go over to the forum there and interact and still watch and listen to it there. From Ben, he says, not a question, just info. Finished setting up my new tax trainer, and when we're finished here, I'll be setting up my TrainerRoad account. Nice, Ben. Welcome. Good to have you.
Welcome.
A question about the forum. Is there a way to mark all topics red on the forum?
Not that I know of. So what they're talking about is they're almost using like an inbox. So it's a really cool feature as you click on something, it kind of goes grayed out. I feel we can look into that because I also kind of thought of that. Yeah. But now what I've done is I've gone through and I'm not watching some topics, and some topics I am watching. So when there's a response to it, I get like this little red RED icon next to it to go into it. But I can see the idea of you kind of look at it, you want to mark them all as red, and then next time you come in, you only see the new stuff.
Yep.
We got to think about that a little bit.
Yep.
We should wait a little bit to see too how people are using this thing before we make any changes like that.
For sure. James says, James reached out to us. He says, I responded to a forum post regarding the YouTube stream dropping in the forum when accessed from the forum page, and my account was promptly blocked. Seems strange. Shoot us a message, and we'll get that fixed. We don't know why that would have happened. So another thing from Dinah Duck says, moved from Zwift to TrainerRoad recently. Just finished Sweet Spot Base mid-volume 1. Wow, what a difference to get serious professional coaching. Love the informative and instructive text, too. Nice. Good job, Chad.
You know what? There are 2 people that got auto-marked as spam. We'll show producer Nick how to do this next time. But I just approved the 2 people that got auto-marked.
Was that because of frequent posting?
No, it's something with the...
We can get into it.
Yeah, it's
cool.
It's machine learning kind of thing.
Got it.
Somebody asked, is it raining in the TrainerRoad office? Because it looks like a rain jacket.
I'm just cold. I'm just cold. Next one. On the new calendar, is there a way to add a repeating event, or do I need to add them individually?
Ooh, good question. We have a whole list of upcoming features for the calendar in the forum. And the post is called like Calendar is Live, and reoccurring events is one of them. And this is, we're pretty much just copying Google Calendar functionality, where you could say, I have a group ride every Saturday. It actually happens every other Saturday. And I want it to, this is how much it's the training stress or something.
Cool.
That's going to be very nice. A couple other features that are asked for that are upcoming are copy and paste workouts, copy and paste weeks, and also sync your calendar with, we'll provide a feed so it can go to iCal, Google Calendar, or Exchange, so you can see your workouts actually on your regular calendar.
That's cool.
Makes sense. This one, let's see. Hi guys, would it be possible to set different FTP from indoor to outdoor activities? We actually discussed this as went back and forth on this one for quite a while, and we've talked a lot on the podcast about difference in FTP from indoors and outdoors, your ability to express it. Many times indoors is because of a lack of efficient or of effective cooling, focus, that sort of things. But we've talked about this kind of at length as far as like different FTPs for different rides like that.
Our stance is we don't do it. Try to get a bigger fan. But if you do want to do it, you can actually, if you have like your TrainerRoad FTP set for inside stuff, after you do an outside ride, you can edit the ride and change the FTP for that ride if you want to do it. So it is possible. Some people, TT and Road, it is possible. It's not advised by us, but we're not preventing you from doing it.
Cool. Any more, Nate?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the live stream, everybody. We will be talking to you, Chad and I, with possibly a special guest. We'll be talking to you next week.
I hope I can be on the forum and just comment.
Nate'll be trolling in the forum, right? So we're looking forward to talking to you all next week. If you have any questions or anything else about the podcast, just jump into the forum and share it there. If you join us usually on Facebook or YouTube, most folks are migrating over to that forum. So join us over there. We'll have posts giving you any instructions that you would need on that in the Facebook podcast group, so you can check that out. But yeah, we're happy to have calendar release. Hopefully it's helpful for all of you, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.